My life took an unexpected turn. My name is Paula, and I'm a single mother. I've been raising my son alone for a long time. His name is Jeremy, and he's now 24 years old. We've always been close, just the two of us, navigating life's ups and downs together. One evening, something unexpected happened. Jeremy looked exhausted and told me he wasn't feeling well. He had been working and studying hard, and he seemed drained. I told him he could lie down on my bed if he wanted to rest. The night was cold, and our house took a while to warm up, so I covered him with a blanket. At first, it felt normal, just a mother and her son. But then, as I lay down beside him, I felt him move closer. He was probably just trying to warm up, and I didn't think much of it. But then he wrapped his arms around me, gently pulling me close, like he used to when he was younger. I was a little surprised but let it happen. He probably just needed comfort. I could feel him next to me, his steady presence. Lying there, I noticed Jeremy's breathing slow, as if he were falling asleep. The room was so quiet that I could hear my own heartbeat. It was strange but also soothing. I didn't move, not wanting to disturb him, telling myself it was just a mother comforting her son. But after a while, he shifted, moving even closer under the blanket. I felt his arm lightly around me, and I froze for a moment, unsure of what I was feeling. Part of me wanted to say something to create distance, but another part stayed still. There was a tension in the air I couldn't ignore, and I didn't know why I felt it. Then something happened that caught me off guard. I felt something hard under the blanket. It was unexpected, and my heart started racing. I tried to stay calm, reminding myself this was my son. Maybe he didn't even realize it. I lay there, trying to ignore the feelings stirring inside me. I told myself it was just a strange, awkward moment that would pass. But as the minutes ticked by, I realized things had shifted, and I didn't know how to handle it. Jeremy stayed close, his breathing steady, but I felt the heat rising between us. I wanted to move, to say something light to break the tension, but the words wouldn't come. I was trapped in that moment, unsure of what I was truly feeling. Then Jeremy slightly lifted his head to look at me. His eyes held a softness I hadn't seen before, a look that both reassured and unnerved me. He didn't say anything, but it felt like he was asking if everything was okay. I tried to smile, hoping it would ease the strange sensation, but it only thickened the silence. His hand rested on mine, firm yet gentle, almost absent-mindedly. It was such a small gesture, but every touch seemed to awaken something in me I couldn't ignore. I kept my breathing steady, trying not to let him see how fast my heart was beating. I didn't know what to do or say, so I stayed there, completely enveloped in this strange connection. I told myself it was just a mother comforting her son, nothing more. But in that silence, just the two of us under the blanket, my mind swirled with thoughts that felt inappropriate but impossible to shake. He was my son, but lying so close to him, I felt something deeper, a closeness I didn't understand. I was caught in a mix of confusion and warmth, an unexpected sensation that left me frozen. Jeremy didn't seem to notice my turmoil. He stayed by my side, his hand moving gently, comforting, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. His breathing was calm, his eyes closed again, and I wondered if he was falling asleep. But then his hand moved up my arm. I shivered, my body reacting, and he opened his eyes, looking straight into mine. There was a question in his gaze, as if he were asking if this was okay, if I felt the same strange pull he did. I whispered his name, barely able to get the word out. I wanted him to stop, to pull away, to create distance, but I couldn't move. The tension between us was too strong, like a silent storm brewing. Neither of us spoke, but the air was heavy with unspoken words, things we couldn't express. Almost as if it were the most natural thing, He moved closer. My heart raced, my mind spiraled, but I couldn't bring myself to pull back. I was torn between my role as a mother and the strangeness rising as he drew nearer. I caught my breath, and all my thoughts faded, leaving only this moment between us. Jeremy's hand rested gently on my shoulder, as if anchoring me. The world around us felt distant, and I could only focus on his presence. The steady rhythm of his heartbeat I could almost hear. For a moment, I closed my eyes, trying to calm myself, telling myself to pull back, to break this heavy moment. But then he brushed a strand of hair from my face. It was a simple gesture, yet it pierced my heart in a way I didn't understand. I opened my eyes, and he was there, looking at me with such tenderness, such trust. His face was so close I could see every detail, the faint scar, the soft curve of his jaw, the way his gaze searched mine. There was a vulnerability in him that mirrored my own, and I could see he was as lost in this moment as I was. We stayed there, suspended in silence, as if time had stopped. My mind was a whirlwind of questions, doubts, things I didn't understand, but I was drawn to him, this person I had raised, yet who seemed entirely new in that moment. Just when I thought we'd remain frozen in that silence, Jeremy pulled back slightly, breaking the trance. He let out a nervous laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. It snapped me back to reality for a second, making me realize how close we had been. I tried to quell the flood of emotions overwhelming me, hoping he hadn't noticed. "Sorry, Mom," he said, his voice full of uncertainty. "I didn't mean to." He avoided my gaze, and I saw a faint blush on his cheeks, as if he were grappling with the same confusion I was. I wanted to comfort him, to tell him everything was okay, but the words stuck in my throat. I didn't know what to say, and for the first time in a long time, I felt uneasy in front of my own son. I reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder, and gave him a small smile, hoping it would ease the tension. "It's okay, Jeremy," I said in a soft, reassuring voice. It's been so long with just the two of us. Maybe we're both a little lost." He nodded, and I saw a flicker of relief in his eyes. Just as the tension began to ease, the doorbell rang, startling us both back to reality, breaking the connection that had formed between us. I got up quickly, my heart still racing, and went to the door, grateful for the interruption. It was our neighbor Paul, always a friendly face, someone I could count on in a pinch. He smiled, but his gaze lingered on me a bit longer than usual, and I realized I still carried the strange energy from the moment with Jeremy. I tried to compose myself, hoping he wouldn't notice anything. "Hi, Paula," he said warmly. "I was wondering if you needed anything. I know it's been colder lately, and I can help if you're having heater issues." A wave of relief washed over me, and for a moment, I let myself relax. "Thanks," I replied, smiling. "The house is a bit cold, actually. I'd really appreciate your help." Paul came in, and I noticed Jeremy watching us from the hallway. His face was unreadable. I glanced at him, and for a moment, I saw something in his eyes. Jealousy, perhaps, though he quickly masked it. I was surprised, wondering if there was more to his feelings than he let on. As Paul checked the heater, he asked about the house and made small talk, but I couldn't help glancing at Jeremy, who watched us with a strange intensity. I felt his unease, which added another layer of tension to the room. I wavered between wanting to make things comfortable with Paul and being acutely aware of Jeremy's presence. It never left me. After a few minutes, Paul turned to me with a smile. "All right, Paula, call me if you need anything else." I thanked him, and as he left, the tension between Jeremy and me became even more palpable. I closed the door and turned to him, seeing him standing there with a serious expression. "You okay?" I asked, trying to gauge what was on his mind. He shrugged and looked away, his voice low. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just didn't expect Paul to show up, that's all." I wanted to talk to him, to try to understand what was happening between us, but before I could say more, he brushed past me and headed to his room. Without another word, his door closed softly behind him, leaving me standing there with a strange mix of relief, confusion, and the lingering sense that something was unresolved. I stood there, staring at Jeremy's closed door, a void I couldn't quite grasp. I was trying to make sense of everything that had happened. The moment we shared, the way he reacted when Paul was there, the unspoken tension that felt ready to erupt again. I went to my room and sat on the edge of the bed, replaying every moment in my head. I knew I couldn't ignore this forever, but I also didn't know how to face it. Then there was a soft knock at the door. My heart leapt, wondering if it was Jeremy coming back. "Come in," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. Jeremy opened the door and stepped inside, his face unreadable. He sat beside me, eyes fixed on his hands. We sat in silence for a while, the air heavy with everything unspoken. "Mom," he finally said, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry if I made things weird earlier." He struggled to find his words. I placed my hand on his, offering a little reassurance. "Jay, it's okay. Maybe we're both a little lost right now. It's been so long with just the two of us, and sometimes things can get confusing." He nodded, his eyes still down, then looked up at me, his gaze filled with emotions I couldn't fully decipher. "But it's different," he said softly, almost as if he were afraid to admit it. My heart tightened with the same confusion, and for a moment, I considered pulling him into a hug and telling him everything would be okay. But I wasn't sure if that's what he needed or if it would complicate things further. So I stayed there, letting the silence speak for us. Finally, I took a deep breath and looked at him. "Jeremy, maybe we just need to take a step back and think about this," I said gently. "It's okay to feel close, but it's also okay to need space to figure things out." He nodded, but then, in a surprising gesture, he rested his head on my shoulder, like he used to when he was younger. It brought comfort, but also that strange tension I couldn't ignore. My heart softened, and I wrapped my arm around him, holding him gently in a gesture meant to comfort, even though I knew the issues between us weren't fully resolved. For the first time in a while, it felt like we didn't need all the answers right away. We could figure things out step by step, together, even if it was complicated. And as we sat there, just holding each other, there was a quiet glimmer of hope that, no matter what, we'd find a way through this. We stayed like that, quietly, as if all the confusion between us could fade just by being close. But I knew it wasn't that simple. The closeness was comforting but also unsettling, like a surface neither of us could ignore. Jeremy lifted his head, his face serious. "I don't know what to do with this," he said, his voice slightly trembling. "I don't want to make things complicated for us, but I can't ignore it either." His words hung in the air like a question he didn't dare ask aloud. I swallowed, searching desperately for what to say, but before I could respond, there was another knock at the door. We both jumped, startled and caught off guard. We exchanged a glance, puzzled. The knock was firm, almost urgent, as if the person on the other side knew something was happening. Suddenly nervous, I got up and went to open the door. When I did, Paul was standing there again, looking concerned. "Paula, sorry to bother you," he said. "I just wanted to check if everything's okay. You seemed a little off earlier." I glanced at Jeremy, who was watching us intently, his face still unreadable. I tried to keep my voice calm as I replied, "Thanks, Paul, but everything's fine. We're just having a quiet evening." Paul looked at me, then at Jeremy, thoughtful. "All right, but don't forget I'm right next door if you need anything." After he left, I closed the door and turned to Jeremy, who was still watching me with that same intensity. He stood and walked slowly toward me, and my heart started racing again. The air between us was heavy with everything left unsaid. But just as he reached me, he stopped, his expression shifting as if he were wrestling with himself. "Maybe we shouldn't rush things, Mom," he said softly, his voice trembling. "Maybe we need time." My heart ached with the same conflicting feelings, but I nodded. "You're right, Jeremy. We both need to think this through without rushing." He nodded too, and we stood there, close but cautious, as if on the edge of something we couldn't control. It was an ending, but also a beginning, something we couldn't quite define. As he returned to his room, I wondered what the future held for us.